So, hey guys, thank you all for coming back for this last segment of today's event. And in this last segment, we have our success panel. And I would like to welcome Musa Feynman, Shrey Miguel, Piers Casas, and Olamide Elizabeth. So Olamide just notified me that she's going to be 15 minutes late, so she'll be rejoining in the next 15 minutes. So I will hand it over to our host for this segment, Antonia. Take it away.
Can you see me? Okay, great. I'm just gonna make myself spotlighted. Okay, great. Shrey, is it all right if you can put your video? Great, so I can spotlight you. Okay, great. So honored to be a moderator for this amazing, successful panel. So just to start myself off, I'm Antonia, I'm one of the social secretary for Inspire. So can you just briefly tell me more about your journey into what you're doing right now? Starting with Piers.
Thanks, Antonia, and thanks for having me on today. I guess as a brief intro to me, so I'm Piers. I work at a management consultancy called Newton. Before that, I grew up, went to school in London, and I went to school on the riverside in London, so spent a lot of time on the river rowing. Luckily, managed to carry that on through uni, so went to Cambridge for uni and rowed in the boat race team, and that really kind of shaped my kind of direction in life, which I might come on to later. But from there, went to Newton, and at Newton I've worked in everything from healthcare through to nuclear submarines. So it's been a really broad and rich experience at Newton. Hopefully can share some of the things I've learned along the way today.
Thank you so much. Next, Shrey.
Yeah, so I grew up East London, so I went to school, college in East London, and went university in Twickenham. I went to St Mary's University, and yeah, so I'm more into the fashion industry and the entertainment industry. So that's like a brief background of myself. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Lastly, but not least, Musa.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on this panel. It's a real honor. Just to give my background, so I actually was born in Senegal, West Africa, grew up there as well as a brief period in France, and then came here to do A-levels and lived in Sheffield as well as London, so that London connection is still there. My current role, I work within compliance, legal and compliance within the financial service industry in an insurer called Beazley, but historically my background is legal as well on the banking side. So I've cut across different sectors, developed in different areas, and really enjoy the variety of my work. I'd love to discuss it further.
Lovely stuff. So obviously our final panelist is Olamide, but she'll be here shortly. So just to start things off, what advice were you given that helped you to be successful in your career? So Musa, you can go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I'd say I've been given a lot of advice over the years, but one piece of advice that I've always remembered and always kept is don't be complacent and always be aware of the fact of adaptation versus extinction. The reason I mentioned that is we're in this certain, the way we're working now and the way we're living now, things keep on changing. What everyone needs to be aware of is that the world will change and ways of working will change. So you need to make sure that you're at the front of the curve, and then you maintain your dynamism as well as creativity. Because with that creativity, you can stay above the curve, and then it won't be the case where, you know, someone will come up with an idea and then suddenly what your job is doing is suddenly obsolete. You end up becoming the trailblazer, and you end up setting the precedent, meaning that you will always be in the forefront of what you do, and you'll always maintain that hunger to do more. So that's probably the best piece of advice I was given.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. Shrey?
Yeah, with me, it was more of the term free the world, really going out into the world and displaying what you can and everything that you've installed over the years, because we've all been given an art or a talent or a dream. So one thing I was told was to go out there and to show the world what I can do, because I had so many ideas growing up. I was just trying to turn and really letting people see what I can bring, what difference I can do. So one thing with me was free the world, literally go out there and just show the world who you are and what difference you can make. Because the life that we have is pretty much limited. We get to 80, 90, and then we're pretty much downgraded. So it's more of just go out there and show the whole entire world who you are and what difference you can make within the industry that you pick, that you kind of go as a career-wise, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree because like obviously I'm an indecisive person. So I always think to myself, why should I stick to one? Why can't I explore? So that's really telling, be free, experience so much opportunities.
Exactly. Yes, exactly that.
Piers.
Yeah, I think something that really stuck with me is something from the sporting world. Something we spoke about a lot was that the race would be won when no one was watching. That was always something we used to say to each other, and I think hand in hand with that, we'd say always that we wanted to be able to, win a race not just on our best day but on our worst day. And I think life often, the important moments that change the trajectory of your life are kind of singular moments along the way, but actually the outcome of those moments is the sum of all the work you put in that leads to that moment. I think that's been a really defining kind of approach in my life.
On mute. Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. Like you guys have all displayed, obviously. I think it's really telling because I think the people you meet as well, the fact that you guys gained this sort of advices, I feel like this conference allows people to know as well. So you guys are the one who's telling the advices now. So I feel like that is really, benefiting. So the next question is, what does success mean to you? So Piers, you can go off.
I think for me with that, I think that's a really interesting question. I think that the crucial thing with that question is it's what it means to you that's really important, and it's not what it means to anybody else. And I think probably a lot of people fall into the trap of trying to sort of seeking the things that they see other people are valuing. And I think what's really important is that you have your own definition of where you want your life to go and what that looks like, and therefore what all the steps along the way are, and that you stay really true to that, and you set up kind of what are the principles I'm going to run with along the way, like what are the elements of that life I want to reach, and like how do I stick to that. And people will really try to knock you along the way all the time, but I think if you can be really true and clear on what does it mean for me and to me, I think that's the really important thing that can be a thread through.
Yeah, same with me, because I feel like as long as you said, the key phrase there is to me. Don't let anyone, I feel like, especially coming from, African background, my own parents telling me, okay, this is the path, or, go into this because this is what you get the most pay. Well, is it for you? So I feel like that is something that one should hold true. So,
Yeah, something similar, more or less of how many people can you bring with you, in terms of you getting to that level and then bringing others with you, because you can't be successful by yourself. It's impossible, or you're just going to end up being in a mansion and there's no one to celebrate with. But when you have, I don't know, a friend, a colleague, or someone you've met along the way that you've influenced, it may not be of financial type of influence or anything of that caliber, just knowing that you've added to another person, another human being, you've given back in any sort of way, that's a success. Like a school teacher example, them giving their time, giving that education across is a success for them, because then they can go back and then they can look back after a couple of years and say, look, this student so-and-so was in my class. Or a coach, for example, can say, Ronaldo per se was one of the players that I was coaching. That is a form of success. So for me, it's literally bringing as many people as possible and helping along the way. Of course, you can't bring everyone with you, but the people that you kind of help, like me doing this, is a success, because I can have an influence, to your future. I may not be part of your future, but I know I've added in some sort of way. Yeah, just to narrow it down, that's what success for me is. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Shrey. Lisa?
I mean, those were some brilliant answers by Piers and Shrey, so it's tough to follow on. But in terms of success, I'm echoing a lot of what they've said, is that one, it is subjective. Success to me doesn't mean it's success to someone else. So we always need to maintain that we don't have that applied pressure on ourselves to have the same level of success as a sibling or even someone I'm in uni with, someone I share a dorm with. Because what success means to me personally is being able to, provide for my family, fulfill my goals, and, maintain happiness, and also pass the rope on. By passing the rope on, a lot of this work that I do outside of work is just to make sure we get good interns in, can build people up, give them the confidence to actually follow forward. Because if I can work with someone and then they end up surpassing me, I'm extremely happy. You know, that person could be deemed from a financial basis to be more successful than me, but I feel like I've got all the success there because, you know, I influenced them, I played a part in that, and I encourage them to do the same. But then that's a line that needs to continue. It needs to be a cycle where it's something where you have the mentality to help another person, which also helps yourself. And that's what I see as the main issue.
Yeah,
Main
you
part of
hit the
success.
point there, because definitely, I think one key thing that always sticks to me, a special quote, is that bring something valuable to others, because then you gain some value for yourself, and you hit the point in terms of providing that example. The next question is, since we know what success means to you, have you guys experienced little successes, and how have you overcome those, you know, failures? So, Ray.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
So since you guys have experienced success and you know what success means to you in a way, have you guys experienced any little success or failures, and how did you overcome those barriers?
Yeah, so I'm starting off with failures, but I've experienced loads of you know, like football for whatever reason it was, and I just thought, you know what, this isn't for me. Although I went to university and I graduated, I just couldn't get a job. As simple as that. And instead of me looking at it as a failure, it was more of, okay, where am I going wrong? What's my approach? You know, who do I need to speak to? What background work do I need to do? So I kind of just went away and said, you know what, you're going to remember me. You know, all the no's that I got was just leading to a yes. You know, so every single no for me was, you know what, I'm going to knock on another door. If there's 100 doors on this road, I'm going to knock on all of them and one will open. Yeah, and that door opened eventually. So I got turned down pretty much all the football agency within the UK, and Rock Nation picked me up, and they're all over in the US. So that is just a failure, a success into one, if I could say, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Props to you for Rock Nation, whole US. Musa?
So in terms of failures, I'd say, yeah, back in the day, when I had the failure, you know, it affected me in a negative way. I'd be like, oh, maybe I didn't do something right. You know, I was quite negative about the approach and thinking what's going on. And then maybe it probably reduced some of my drive even. But then, you know, that wasn't the right type of mentality. So, you know, with the failure, the way that I see it now, and as I've grown, is that you should see it as a lesson learned. So it's not always a failure, because sometimes you have to do something wrong so you can get into a better position, because you now have that previous knowledge of what went wrong, so you know what to do correctly. And with failure, I think people really need to kind of take a step back and understand, is it a failure that they had control over, or is it a separate failure? Because if I look at my journey, you know, coming out of uni, then law school, because I was from a legal background, I had a training contract, which is something that you have to get yourself qualified as a lawyer. I had that up and running, but did I know that another law firm was going to absorb the law firm I was going to, and then kind of get rid of the department I would have gone into? That's something that I didn't have any influence over. So you could say I failed in terms of not starting that journey when I wanted to, but I didn't have control over that. So I want people to really understand that there are failures, but what do you only reassess it if it's something you had control over. If you didn't, it's, you know, it's life. Life happens. No one saw this lockdown happening. No one saw the coronavirus. You can't say it's a failure because you didn't do X, Y, and Z, because it's something that was out of your control. I mean, but moving that to successes, I'd always wanted to work in a sort of advisory kind of business and so on. And luckily I'm in that role. I didn't get to the role via the conventional methods, but I'm in the role, and my company, Beasley, we have a sort of employee of the year thing. So I've successfully managed to get that award, and also, you know, work on different clients and get some new success I'd have is, you know, being in a position where I move up with my friends, and the fact that we're all in a position where we can celebrate together.
Yeah, you can go on, please.
I think I kind of absolutely echo what the other guys said, I think for talking about failures, I think the first thing with failure is that you're much more defined by your successes than you are by your failures, and you're much more defined by the things you do than the things you don't do. And I think, when you come to a moment of failure, it's frustrating and it's easy to get caught in that moment. But actually, the really important thing is to remember that it's the potential of what's in front of you that's going to be important. It's the potential of what's in front of you that you can control. So the really important thing to do is not to dwell on that moment, to learn your lessons. If there are lessons to learn from that, build to go away. And of course, it doesn't mean there's anything kind of fundamentally has gone wrong in the trajectory of your life if you encounter one. I think then coming on to successes, I think for me the thing that stands out, as one of the most fulfilling things for me, and I think the other guys touched on this as well, is when you're really clear of purpose and you're driving and working really hard in a direction, but what you see is that raises other people up around you, and you feel that you've had an impact on someone, you've seen them grow. I think for me, that happens both with the clients we work with as a consultancy. Sometimes you work with a client only for a few months, but you feel a real difference from the day you arrive to the day you leave, and what they're able to achieve and the relationships they have with their colleagues in the position they have within their business. They've really thrived as a result. And then also when I'm working with kind of within our teams, seeing some of the new joiners come into the team really nervous, really unsure of themselves, and blossom them into kind of really confident, really capable.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think that's truly inspiring. Like, even got me thinking about my own failures and how ways I've pursued to overcome them, not think about them too much. That makes sense. And obviously, it's great to have peers as my mentor to obviously remind me the fact that, okay, that's done. What can you do to improve it? Basically, it seems that we have Olamide, who's just joined right now, so I'll just add her to the panelist. You're mute.
Oh, sorry. Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I just had a photo shoot. But hi, am I supposed to introduce myself?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olamide. I am currently a investment banking credit risk analyst at JP Morgan. I also make videos on YouTube on personal finance, banking, careers, that sort of stuff. And yeah, I also run an online store called The Resource Bank, which is kind of related to what I do in banking and resources to help people get in. I think that's about it.
Yeah, great. Just before, we've just asked your peers a couple of questions. Yeah, it's a tough one.
What advice do I give that helped me be successful in my career? I don't know what advice that I was given, but the advice that I would give is, especially if most people here are in university, is after you get to university, I think for GCSEs, A-levels, you're kind of running the same race as most people around you. You're all at GCSEs, you're all trying to get to A-levels, A-levels, you're all trying to get to the top universities. But literally, once you get to university, you need to be able to make decisions solely based on some of the best decisions that I've made have been very different to what people around me were making, or what people around me had advised me to take. So for example, one of the best decisions I've made that has helped my career, uni and everything, was taking a gap year. And at that time, there was no one around me taking that. No one was advising me to take a gap year. That was complete opposite to everything. But every time I made a decision, I had to think about, okay, cool, forget about what everyone else is doing. What is it that I want for myself? And so that is the advice that I would give for anyone who's trying to have a successful career. You cannot be successful trying to live out someone else's dreams and ideas of what they think success is. You need to define it for yourself and make decisions solely based off of that.
Yeah, I think you even answered the question that I was going to ask, what the success means to you. So that's really nice to even hear. I think the last question we did ask the panelists was, what little successes or failures or setbacks you experienced, and how did you overcome them?
I'm not sure. I don't know, because I think that in hindsight, everything that felt like a setback at the time was definitely a setup for something greater. So for example, like when I took my gap year, I was 1 year behind my peers. Like that definitely felt like a failure, like a setback. I didn't get into the university that I wanted to go into at the start. I didn't get the grades that I wanted to get at the start. So it definitely felt like a setback. But at the time, like it felt like that. But now, like that was one of the biggest blessings in disguise. So I don't know. I feel like some of the things that we think are like huge setbacks when they are happening, in hindsight, they always end up being part of redirecting you to the path that you're supposed to be on. So that's all I can really say. Like in hindsight, everything I felt was a setback was never a setback. Like it was always a setup for something greater. So now thinking about it, I'm not really sure, but I can definitely say like at the time when I took my gap year, I definitely felt like I had failed. And I think as well, like when I was in year 12 and I applied to Cambridge and I didn't get in, I felt like I had failed. But again, in hindsight, going to the university that I went to was one of the best decisions that has happened. So in hindsight, nothing really, but at the time, I think, yeah, I would say those two.
Yeah, I definitely agree, definitely. Because I think one thing my dad always says to me is, no condition is permanent. If you know me, I always say that quote because it's something that's resonated with me. Because you definitely don't know what would happen tomorrow. As you said, in hindsight, this was a setback, but right now you're a successful woman. Just like the panelists right here, you guys are successful men. So I feel like just what setbacks you're experiencing now is something that is setting you for something greater. So just keep that in mind. So I think before we do move on to Q&A, I do have one more question. Is any tips for staying productive in, lockdown, quarantine, striving to be a successful person in the future? What are you doing right now to obviously make that into, put that into fruition? So we can start with Musa.
See, any successful tips to stay productive in lockdown? That's a tough one because I'm sure lots of people are trying to write books on that right now. But in terms of what I would say is have a routine, because just in terms of looking at productivity at work as well as maintaining, mental stability and making sure that you feel okay in yourself, it's always good to have a routine where you're doing a routine with variety. So although that sounds like a bit of a contradiction, what I mean is have a routine where, I get up at X time, I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z. I have my goals for the day. And, when I have the goals for the day, I split them up and say, this is what I need to achieve. And this is what I would like to achieve. Where you can say the like to achieve is, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but you know what you need to achieve. What I mean by variety is something simple as deciding to work standing one day, as opposed to sitting down. These different things mix things up because right now we're all stuck indoors. And we can't really there's not much we can do. But if there's any little change that you can add to kind of spice up working from home or something, I would do that. If you're fortunate enough to live somewhere where, there's multiple rooms, go into another room. I mean, right now we can't really work in the park or anything, but if you got a garden, make use of that. But productivity, in terms of day-to-day productivity, I would say have a work-life balance, because it's very easy for people to slip into the pattern where they think I'm working from home, there's no commute, there's no kind of separation within the day. They might say, I might work until 9 p.m., 10 p.m. The thing is, are you being productive working till 10 p.m.? Because after a certain amount of hours, your productivity levels will go down. Is it better to actually take a break and work smarter rather than working harder? And I think that's a key thing that I'd say to people is to maintain productivity during lockdown is make sure that you're working smart. So even if it takes time to step back and think, how am I working? What does this do? Just know that, is it smart? Is it efficient? So efficiency and working intelligence is a key thing I'd say that everyone should really do.
Yeah, that's something we're learning. I feel like for me, I lean towards working harder and working smarter. So that resonates.
Yeah, I really, really agree with those points. I think something that's been really important for me is being able to kind of partition my life so that my work is like contained within something, and normally your commute or whatever it is that punctuates your day does that for you to a large degree. I think it's interesting for me. I'm in this room at the moment because my housemate's away, but actually in my room normally don't have enough space to set up a desk, so I work in my living room, which is obviously where I kind of kick back and relax at the end of the day as well. So for me, I have to find a way to kind of control the controllables within that. So I very distinctly, I shut my laptop, I tidy everything away. I have a bit of a ritual at the end of the day, and I know that when I've done that, the day's over, and I don't like step back into that frame of mind. Similarly, you know, you'll dress, maybe deliberately put on kind of like office clothes for the day, or you know, those little rituals, those little routines that then add that punctuation back into your life. It means that then you can step away from the things that are stressing you out and get back into your personal life. And I think even then within the day as well, I think anyone that thinks they can kind of be really, really focused and on it solidly throughout the day is probably kidding themselves. You know, everyone needs to be able to dip in and out. And there are different kind of techniques you can use, but I think deliberately allowing yourself windows of time where you're going to step away and be completely switched off as much as you can be is really productive, because then you can make sure that you are focused when you're trying to get back on with it.
Thank you. Shrey.
Yeah, with me is a lot different actually. One thing that I would say and advise people is more of draw inspiration around you. You know, although like you may be locked down and you're restricted, with myself it's more of just learning a lot of things that I've never learned before. For example, sometimes I just get inspiration by watching TV. Like I'll watch something on the TV and I'll just trying to figure out how can it kind of link to me. Like I'm into fashion. So it's more of, all right, let me watch documentaries on Netflix, let me go on YouTube. So just using the time to kind of rewind a bit, because you may have missed a few steps, you know. So we're busy people, especially living in, like with myself, living in London, you're a busy person. We're up and down, we're traveling, we're meeting people. So now is the time of getting back, sitting back and just learning. It's like going to school without actually going to school, you know. So you're kind of in that mood already, like the two gentlemen were saying, of having a ritual of you, I don't know, getting up, cleaning your workspace, and in your case, cleaning your house or your room, wherever you are, but then also getting to that space of, you know what do I need to learn? How do I come out of this lockdown better than I entered? You know, who do I need to network with? Who do I need to contact? What documentary do I need to watch? And all of that, of course, looking after your mental health, which is the most important one, because the first lockdown that happened, and I think it was, don't quote me on it, March, for me, it was difficult because I wasn't used to just sitting down and doing nothing. But I've just learned, you know what, let me take this time to give my brain a rest. First of all, give my brain a rest, and then to restart learning things that I learned before that I didn't really understand. So for me, that's like the best advice on how to stay busy in the time that we're in. And of course, checking in with family, checking in with friends, and really getting your mind almost away from work, but then always bringing it back, because life will continue after lockdown. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ray. And Olamide?
I would say, I think I really agree with what everyone has already said. The only thing that I would add is you need to know, to be productive, like you need to know what your goal is, because you can't win a race if you don't know where the end point is. Like you'll just be running, you can be running and you're not really achieving anything because you don't know where you're going. So I would say that to really be productive, you really need to know like what is it that you're actually trying to achieve, because only then you can, because you can be working hard and nothing comes off it. Because I don't know if you guys felt like, I felt like that many times, like, right, I did a lot this week but I actually don't know what I did, and that's because you probably haven't defined out what you actually want to achieve. So I would say like one of the most important things for me when I'm thinking about how to be productive, I first need to know what I'm trying to achieve, and then actually breaking that down. Like I think for me, I'm very much a goal orientated person. I always have lists. I always write down what I want to achieve for the year. Then I break that down into quarters. I break that down into monthlies. I break that down into weeklies here as well. But having things in that process, I have a big goal and then I literally just distill it down until it's like the day-to-day stuff. And that's how I really get productive. And I will always say as well, like making a to-do list at the start of the day and using that to guide you throughout the day. Yeah, that's my practical advice on being productive.
Thank you so much for that. So obviously I've asked my questions. I'm opening the floor to the attendees. So does anyone have a question to ask for either Giz, Musa, Trey, and Olamide? We have one that says for Trey, obviously you specialize in personal branding. How does one develop personal branding?
With personal branding, with me personally, I started off with myself, branding myself. You know, it's more or less creating a CV, but you're more or less doing it where you can actually sell it on in terms of a so-called product. So the same way you will kind of develop a CV where you will kind of put down all the things you and accumulated in terms of work. Started off from just, first of all, how I come across on social media, how I come across when I'm trying to articulate myself in a certain point. So with that, I kind of went on to doing it with individuals. So I'm working with Marcus Rashford at Rock Nation per se, and also working within my own business. If I haven't kind of missed the question, just literally painting a picture that you want to paint. That's close. And I can, like per se, like example, I wouldn't have time to pull out a website, but I can pull out my social media accounts and kind of show you my work and kind of show you my branding and how that comes across. So when I go into, I don't know, would be a corporate meeting with a football club, I can pull up my work and say, look, this is how it was, this is how it is now. So per se with Marcus Rashford, this is how he was a year ago in terms of his branding and his image, and this is how he is now, and this is what he's known for now, and this is what he's doing. So literally just playing around with the before and the after of the individual you're working with, or if it's the product that you're working with. Yeah, and that's how I normally narrow down my branding. That answered the question.
Answer the question. Thank you. The next question asked is for the panelists, so it's open. Can you tell us a bit more about your stories or journeys to success? You can like pinpoint a vivid success that is still till this day touching. So we can start with Olamide.
Precious that asked this question. I don't know. What do you I don't know, like, can you define the question a little bit more? Like how I got to where I am right now? Like there's so much I could say.
Precious is trying to say maybe more about just general journeys. So yeah, general journey success.
Okay. Okay, cool. I guess if we're defining as success where I am in terms of like, maybe I can just talk about all the different areas. So I guess some people would see like where I am in my career as a success, working at JP Morgan, and my journey here, I would say from the time I was like 16, 17, I knew I wanted to go into banking. Like I knew banking was what I wanted to do. And I think I did a couple programs with loads of different diversity programs. And then going into university in my first year, I actually didn't get into any investment banking spring weeks. I remember I was very, very, very distraught, especially JP Morgan was always the place. Like I think I've done a couple of videos where I've shown people my vision boards, and literally from the time I was like 18, like JP Morgan, Canary Wharf was on my vision board. And in my first year of university, I didn't even get through to the interview stage. And I remember I was just so gutted because I was like, wow, like this is where I want to be. And like spring week is supposed to be like the easiest part, right? You've still got summer internship, you've still got grad, like it's going to be long for me, it's over. And I remember after that, not getting any investment banking spring weeks, including, the place that I really wanted to be, I was just like, nah, like I was thinking like, okay, maybe I should be a lawyer, maybe banking is not for me, maybe I should go into consulting. I was ready to just be like, yeah, it's not for me. And I think what really made me like reassess that whole thing is I really had to ask myself like, okay, cool, like have you actually given it everything that you really genuinely feel like you can give it? And I was like, nah. So I'm like, okay, cool, let me try again. And in my first year, I applied just very, very, very generally to everything and anything. But I was like, no, I need to figure out what division I want to be in, and why, and let me start working my way towards that. So that's kind of what happened in my second year. And then I realized that, okay, cool, I kind of like deals and working on M&A deals, etc. But I didn't want to be in like the investment banking division because the hours were very, very long, and I managed to come across credit risk. So that's kind of how that happened. I applied super early in my first year. I was ready, I was on it. I think by the time I even started university in like second week of September, all of my applications were in. And I was just like, in my head, I was just like, I don't even care where I end up, but I've given it my all. So if I don't get it now, then that's that. But yeah, eventually I did get it, and that was great. It's a lot of a longer story, but there's not that much time today. But I eventually did get it. I did the summer internship, and it was very, very, very difficult 10 weeks. I think I was working like 8 to 11 p.m. 6-7 days a week. And there were so many points along that journey where I was just like, this is not for me. Like, even on the last day when I got my offer, there was like a whole celebration of party. I was like, nah, I'm not doing this. I just want to go home, and I kind of left. But I think in the long term, I ended up coming back because just speaking to people and just then, letting me know that the internship experience is very different from the graduate experience. But that's how I kind of got to JP Morgan. I feel like, for me, like, success, I don't really go around calling myself successful, so it's really difficult for me to talk about this and say, like, how have I been successful? I don't know. Like, I don't know what part of it is defined as success. But I would just say, like, for me, there are loads of things that I have done. For example, I earlier on last year, actually May, I launched the resource bank just out of spontaneity, because I started my YouTube channel because I really wanted to help people. But at the time I was doing blogs, but there's only so much you can give out in a blog. So that's when I started to do YouTube. And I remember speaking to my friend, and she was just saying, like, a lot of the stuff that you have done, a lot of the stuff that you are giving out for free on your YouTube channel, people are paying for. And so that's when I decided that, okay, cool, I'm going to come up with the resource bank. And in 3 months, we literally made 5 figures. I did not expect that to happen at all. Like, I was not expecting that. I was just giving from a place of, okay, what would I have wanted when I was in these people's shoes, right? And that's how that has happened. But in all honesty, I feel like, I don't know, like, how people see me as successful, but the only way that I would see myself as successful is because I have been very true to what I have wanted to do, and I have persisted through that. There are so many things that I've chosen to do, like I kind of mentioned before, that people have seen as, or not really ideal. So for example, even my degree choice, like doing economic history, people are like, no, just do straight economics. If you want to go into banking, do straight finance. So I was like, no, I know why I want to do economic history. I know the skill set that I have. I'm going to choose that. And like, in the long term, so you guys will be the first to hear this, because I haven't actually announced it, but I've literally just bought my first property. This is like 6-7 months after graduating from university. I bought my first property, and that literally came from the fact that I decided to study my degree, which gave me a lot more time during university. And I spent that time networking with people who had like multiple properties, who were, I don't even know what you call them, property connoisseurs, blah, blah, blah. But I knew what I wanted for myself. And I've always made those decisions based on what I've wanted. Even in my final year of university, when I already had my 2-1 and I was like, okay, cool, I don't care about you anymore. I want to do something else. People were like, no, like, you should definitely go for a first class. Like, you're going to get a better job. I'm like, I'm really not going to get a better job. I already have my offer from where I'm at. I'm not going to get a better job. There's no point. I want to focus on something else. And that's kind of when I started my property journey. And then obviously now that I've bought my first property. But the only thing that I can really say is that I have my goals, and I've stayed true to them and done what I have wanted to do throughout. But I mean, I could go on for a long time, but I guess I'll just hand over to someone. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, thank you so much. Obviously, since we're on, limited on time, I'll ask this question to Musa. How did you personally gain self-confidence or confidence in your work?
So I would say the way in which I gain self-confidence and confidence in my work is by always striving and always pushing to do something outside of my comfort zone. So everyone knows within your comfort zone, you're generally going to be confident. Even if it's just a conversation amongst friends where you're with people, talking about a topic you like, you're going to be confident. Now, in order to increase your confidence, you need to put yourself in a position where you naturally won't have that confidence. And by putting myself in positions, for example, putting myself forward to go to certain committees, certain executive committees and so on, that's really outside of my comfort zone. It's a tough situation. And, with those situations, there are times where you will falter, not necessarily fail, but you will falter. But then you get a learning experience from that. And that already gives you some confidence. And I know we've mentioned stuff about mentors already, but there's difference between mentorship and sponsorship. Now, having a sponsor, that is someone who talks about you when you're not in the room. So it's basically someone within the industry or someone who will always mention your name. For example, there's a project going on. I don't know, head of finance might say, oh, have you considered bringing Musa onto this project? Because he's shown interest in that. And when you have different people of different levels talking about you, you then suddenly think, oh, maybe they think I am good. And then that increases your confidence level. But what I would say is, one, I know people will have confidence in themselves, But the thing is, you really need to trust in your ability and know that you got here via merit, got to wherever you got to via merit, by being very good at what you do. And that should be enough to drive your level of confidence to a place where you think, okay, I'm good enough to do the job. Because I know there were some sessions on imposter syndrome and so on. And when you feel that when you feel you're not an imposter and you want to grow, I think the confidence should come naturally with that. So if I give an example, at the moment, within my department, I've created a sub-department with a new team, quite a few people under me, and we're working in territories where I don't have much experience. For example, we say China and somewhere in Latin America. Now, because they're not places that I've worked before, know those industries and those markets inside out, it's tough. And I'll honestly say, I didn't have confidence thinking, am I going to be able to do this? Is this maybe above my head? But what I did is I thought, let me take a step back. Let me look and see. Let me look and go back to, 18-year-old me. Was that guy a confident guy? Yes. And what did that guy want to achieve? And just remember, that person wanted to achieve certain things and said nothing was going to stop them. So why should I suddenly put all of these extra limitations on myself and bring doubt into the world when I know that I actually believed in myself when I was younger? So I should continue to believe in myself and then also adapt. This is something very new. Learn something new, get that excitement by it. If you're excited about what you're doing and you're learning something new, the confidence will come, and people will also know that, you might be new to the game. Hopefully people say, okay, I want to help this person learn along the way. You'll get mentors and so on. But I would say, have that initial belief. Remember what you used to say a couple of years ago, where you wanted to be. The goal is where you want to be and you want to make that happen. So in doing so, have that belief in yourself and keep on striving for something new and different.
Yeah, 100%. For peers, another question is, what advice would you give to someone wanting to enter the career of consulting?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of people, so for some people, maybe consulting is like the end goal, in which case I'd say, really take the time to think about the culture of the places that you're looking at, because you're going to be there for a while, and you want to, be able to grow there and feel comfortable and kind of make that your home. I think for a lot of people, consulting is like a step along the road, right? You're in a position where you're not sure exactly what you want to do, but you want to keep broadening your skill set, getting exposure to lots of kind of different avenues in business, and start to make up your mind. I think if you're in that position, which I'd say most people probably are, you might be inclined just to go for a big name or something with a broad portfolio of work. I suppose what I'd encourage a little bit is, even if you're not sure exactly what you want to do, you might know that you're more interested in some things than others. You have more interest in finance than healthcare, or the other way around. You might have some preferences that you can draw out and write down. And actually, different consultancies, which might all have really broad kind of portfolios of work, will have quite different directions. They'll be really strong on finance, but have absolutely nothing in the kind of like tourism sector, for example, or they'll have loads in healthcare, but nothing in engineering. Those are the kind of things you might want to go and look at really closely, so that you can actually really clearly see, if this is just a step on the road, I know that it's setting me up to be able to take the next step as well, because it's got the right I'm getting the right exposure to the right things that I know I'm interested in already. So I think that's probably the most thematic thing I'd advise.
Thank you a lot. Next question is for Shrey. How did you break into PR and marketing?
It's a long story. So I started off working at Nike. So I was working at one of the stores, Niketown, and it was more of being around the Nike products, whether it will be footwear, whether it will be the apparel. And from there, I kind of went into this stage of how does it work? How does branding work? How does Nike get an athlete to represent them? How do they finalize the deal? Because you got some footballers who wear Nike boots, Adidas boots, or Puma. And I was kind of interested in that. I just wanted to know the backgrounds, and who are the people and who makes it happen and how does it come about. So I started asking the right questions. So within my workplace, I started speaking to obviously management and asking them, okay, how do I get into the head office and kind of learn from those who are working there, and then I started looking at JD. I started looking at all of the brands that were close to me, that resonated with me at the time, which was like the JD, the Foot Asylum, more the street end brands. So from there, I kind of understood a little bit of how branding works and how advertisement is done. So then I went into kind of branding myself, first of all. And then after that, it was like, you know what? I need to get my foot through the door to kind of widen my understanding. So then within working at Nike, I went into, I think it was the internship that was running at the time. So I kind of went into that, and I was there for 6 months, 3 to 6 months. They gave me a contract, and I learned everything that I could learn. And then I went into sports branding, and then kind of went into personal branding of players, you know. And I just grew as I kind of went into it, started asking the right questions, meeting the right people. It was more doors that were open for me, to the point where I said, oh, you know what, I need to go into fashion now, because I've kind of done sports, you know, because I've come from a footballing background. I know how football works, but I never knew how fashion works. But I had the understanding, so I kind of linked everything that I knew at the time together. So linking, a lot of brands will link the product to the player that they want to sell per se. So example, if the Air Forces were being relaunched by Nike, they will kind of get influencer, or they will get someone of high profile to advertise the shoe. That's a form of advertisement. So for me, it was just really understanding it, and then going, taking myself out of my comfort zone and actually going into the field. You know, and there's different ways of where you can enter the field of marketing and branding. Like working with someone you know who's an influencer, you know, whether it'll be styling them, whether it'll be going on shoots with them. That's a form of marketing where you're updating their social medias, or you're just following them around. So all of that little experience I kind of just took on, until I got to the goal at the end, which was to get into branding itself.
Lovely, amazing stuff. Before we do end our panel, I do have one more question to ask all of you. Averta asks is your top tips for managing time effectively and being successful in your careers. I can start with Musa.
So my top tips first for managing time is prioritization. You're going to have different things that you need to do. Try and prioritize what would be nice, you know, in one go. It's not going to happen, because we're all very good at multitasking. But then again, when you multitask too much, you lose track of what's going on and where everything's at. So always identify what the most important thing is. So right now, is the most important thing. Is it going to be, you know, getting the grade I need to get, or is it getting an internship? Is it getting a job? Like between, you know, depending on the person, you need to find out what your main prioritization is. So if you prioritize, you know what to address first. And in terms of managing time, this is where I find things a bit difficult, because people generally say there's a method A, method B to managing time, you know, start early, you know, do things, take regular breaks, which is all very good. And I think and it is true, but everyone does work differently. And you really need to understand how you work and whether that suits you. Some people are morning people, some people are late night people. So for example, revising and so on. Is it better? Are you more efficient at night? Are you more efficient in the day? Find out what suits you best, and always put some kind of prioritization there. And like we said, I think like quite a few of the panelists have said, mental well-being is a key thing. So don't work so much that you put yourself in a situation where you're just on pause for a long time because, you know, mentally you've pushed yourself too far. So I'd say that. And the second part of the question, sorry, what was that?
It was just to connect the question of managing time effectively and being successful in your career, but you kind of did answer it.
Yeah, so I mean, with that, if you prioritize, then you can be successful, because I think knowing what you need to do, knowing your goals, that will bring about success. But remember, one key message I really want everyone to remember is it's better to work smart than to work too hard, because working smart includes working hard, but it also means working in a way that's effective and efficient. So efficiency is a key driver to success.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for that. Shrey?
One thing that works for me is having the discipline, you know, because all of us were busy people. And I guarantee you, most of us had so much to do today in general, but you made time to kind of be here. So it's literally having things down where you can see them, because you can write, 1 p.m. I'm going to be at the gym, 2 p.m. I'm going to be having my lunch. That doesn't always work. it doesn't always work. But when you can actually foresee what you need to do already, in my case, I normally, like, when I kind of get into my bed at night, I normally already plan my day ahead. So I try to plan it in my head. So I'm going to be doing this at this time. I'm going to be here at this place, because my schedule is always changing, always changing, especially within my industry. I can be styling a footballer for one shoot, and then I have to be at the club, and then I need to kind of jump from the club and go back into another shoot. So it's literally just foreseeing it and taking your time with it, and not rushing, because sometimes we may miss schedules, or we may miss what we was meant to do. So it's literally giving yourself that time to always be recapping with yourself, because that way you don't become imbalanced. Because most of the time we become imbalanced when we miss a schedule. So if you was meant to go to the gym and you miss it, you've just become imbalanced. So it's always good to take time, for me to take time and to recap on what I've missed, and then to start again. So every day, starting again, if I've missed something the following day, I'll add it to the new day. So that's how I kind of manage time. It's more or less impossible to manage, your time, because schedules do change and things does happen. Example, with the lockdown and with the virus, we never knew that it was going to come, but it just landed, so we just kind of have to make the best out of it, and kind of take our time with it. Yeah, if that answered the question correctly.
Definitely did. And finally, Piers.
Yeah, I really agree with both of those, and especially on the prioritization point, completely agree with that. And I think I would always advocate trying to prioritize your life as if you're someone else looking at your life. I think people tend to be quite harsh on themselves in terms of how much like slack they should allow themselves in their day, and also like not necessarily the best judge of how much they can actually get done. So I think really productive always to look at your own life as if you're in someone else's shoes and think, okay, well, if someone else had this set of things in front of them, like how would I advise that they structure their day? And you'll probably end up with a more like even-handed and kind of well-balanced kind of timetable. I think the other thing I would always advocate is leave time in your life, especially in your kind of like working life, to be present and poised for the things you need to be. If you look at an athlete on game day, they're not like going hard the morning of the game. They're taking their time. They're going through the steps they need to be ready for what ultimately is the moment that decides everything for them, for their year, for their season, whatever else it is. I think that's really true even on the small level as well. I always think, for example, I really discourage people from like trying to cram right before they get into an exam room, because the best way you could be using that time is to be poised and ready, to have your mind clear so you can go and sit that exam. And I think that's true of things like exams and small challenges along the way. And it's so easy to cram things in the notion that that's the most productive and you're doing the most output, but actually it means you might fall short in the moments where you really, really need to deliver.
Thank you so much. This success panel was just amazing. I really learned so much, and I do believe that the attendees did as well. So the key takeaways I got from four of you, since Olamide, I think she's having technical difficulties to join back, is just the importance of creating a personal definition of success, the importance of being your own success with motivation, and just taking time to reflect, prioritize, and not being scared of failure, because it's just something that in hindsight you just think back and say, oh, well, look at me now. So yeah, so thank you so much, Piers, Musa, Shrey, and Olamide for speaking to us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Honor being on.
So the next part of our conference, when it come to an end, which is such a shame because I'm enjoying the conference so much. So the next part is prizes and giveaway. So on to you, Precious.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Antonio?
We can. Or I can.
Okay, sorry, because my Wi-Fi is just being a bit woofy right now. So please, if I do break up, please tell me. But before I express like my sincere thanks for joining us today. I just want to thank the Success panel. And Olamide did have some technical difficulties, so she had to cut out early. But she just said that please, if anyone wants to reach out to her, definitely subscribe to her YouTube and feel free to message her there or on any other platform. And so as long as our other hosts that were also there, and we all thank you for being there too. But before expressing my sincere gratitude to all of those who have made the conference a success, I would like to award our winners of the contest. So don't forget, guys, we had some prizes and giveaways. So for the first giveaway, we had an Instagram giveaway to increase interactivity and drive traffic for this event. And we have found that the giveaway winner is, I don't really have a standing ovation, but so I'm just going to say it. It's Grace Okutubo. So Grace, you are our giveaway winner. Thank you so much for being interactive in our Instagram post and getting the most likes. And please do contact us on our Warwick Inspire email or through Instagram, or if you know anyone personally through. Okay, so Grace has just said thank you. You're very welcome, Grace. And so we had 3 individual workshop giveaways for the people who asked was interactive during the workshop or even interacted with the Slido. And for the first workshop, just to remind you, that was delivered by Ahmed Mohammed, and that was all about personal growth and how to become your best self. So the winner of that workshop is Celeste. I think I'm saying her name right, Celeste or Celeste, who said that she learned the importance of dedication. So Celeste, you've also won that workshop, and your prize is an Amazon gift voucher, so use it as you please. But please do, you're very welcome, Celeste. Please do contact us via our Warwick Inspire email and just saying that you was told that you won the giveaway, or you can leave your personal email with us and we will contact you. And for the second workshop, delivered by Francis Trout on networking and how to make the most out of your mentor, the winner for that was Mousy. And Mousy said that she learned the importance of how mentoring is an active relationship as opposed to a passive relationship, where you give as much to your mentor as they give to you. So we found that very insightful for Mousy, and your contributions throughout the whole conference today has been it's very appreciated. So please do get in touch with us, Mousy, or leave your email. And the third workshop host, Kajal Patel, on overcoming the imposter syndrome, breaking the glass ceiling and challenging the status quo. The winner of that is MO. I think MO must be a Mercy. But MO, please do get in touch with us. And she said she learned how to delegate control, which was super important. So please do message any of us or get in touch with us. And please do this by emailing or DMing Warwick Inspire to receive your prize. And Musa just said thank you. So thank you very much, Musa, for telling us, coming to talk to us today. And please, guys, take up Musa's offers and everyone's offers today who's asked to interact with all of you. And remember what Francis said about using LinkedIn actively. Send someone an invitation with a note. But so let me again, just as this closing instance, thank you all for having joined us at our second annual running of Warwick Inspire Limitless conference, with this year's theme being Limitless. Your active and dynamic participation has made this conference a very successful event. So let me recall some of the stuff that have marked today's conference. First of all, we had over 100 participants sign up. We had an international keynote speaker, 5 panelists on our education panel, 3 interactive workshops, and 4 panelists on our success panel. We have witnessed an outstanding presentations and rich discussions. We would like to thank all of our guests today. Firstly, our keynote speaker, Professor Yong Zhao, the education panelists, V, Tosin, Jessica, Sienna, and Ibire. I don't know if any of you are still here, but we thank you so much for engaging with us. And the workshop host, Ahmed, who was talking about personal growth, Francis, who was talking about networking and making the most out of your mentor, and Kajal Patel, who was talking about overcoming the imposter syndrome, breaking the glass ceiling, and challenging the status quo. And last but not least, the success panelists. So that's Musa, Stray, Olamide, and Piers, just for being as engaging as possible and offering their help and being as raw as possible, because that's all we need. I'd also like to thank my amazing team. Y'all know who you are. You lot are literally the backbone of this event. If it wasn't for the amount of like breakdowns we had, but we made it happen, and we're just so grateful for all of you. And honestly, guys, I'm so grateful for everyone. And we would also like to give a big thanks to our following sponsors, who are Unlock graduates, Sanctuary graduates, and Tortoise. It's been extremely difficult to secure funding during a global pandemic, and we would not been able to host a conference without your amazing organizations who decided to invest in our vision. So we thank you so much. Just to remind you that the conference, the focus for this year's conference was limitless, meaning without end, without limit or a boundary. And I feel like that we have truly succeeded in observing the focus, and we've maximized our attendees' diversity of thought. We understand the crucial role in promoting educational equality. So as I close this conference with a deep feeling of honor and thought that enables Warwick Inspire to be committed to eradicating educational inequality, I hope that you've all enjoyed today's conference, and we wish you a good day. And I hope that many of you will join us at our careers workshop on the 5th of March. I also remind you that the giveaway is still open. So we had that big giveaway at the beginning where you're required to create a name for next year's conference along with a slogan. So it is still open. So there is another giveaway for those of you who might be a bit upset that you didn't get it. There is still a chance. The careers workshop sign up form is just been dropped in the chat by Rochelle, so please do sign up, where we're going to have amazing people catered to careers. And I thank you very much once again. So from myself and the Warwick Inspire team, we are truly limitless, and only together we will make things happen. So thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you all have a good day in the panoramic, and take care and enjoy yourself.